One. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of For Checking TV. I'm your host, Doug Glackey, and alongside me this evening is my co-host, Scotty Porterfield, and my co-host, Peyton Trollinger. Boys, how we doing?
We're here, man. We are finally back again, and a lot has changed since the last time we've gotten on, and some big changes could be coming this off season as well for the Penguins. I promised myself that I wasn't going to try and talk. That I wasn't going to worry about the Penguins, pending off season until it actually got there. But damn it, here comes Jeff Carter with the extension. So let's get right into it.
I'm
Yeah.
doing pretty good too. I'm just excited to talk about the Pens, honestly, because that's what really needs addressed.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, as Scotty teased earlier, big extension for big Jeff Carter, 2 years, $3.125 million cap hit. And, everybody, I feel like right away you saw a lot of people get worked up over the fact of like, okay, why are they giving a 2-year deal to a 37-year-old third line center? And the answer is because he's damn good at being the third line center. I mean, we all know that these past 10 years have been just a complete state of limbo for the most part, with the exception of the short-lived Nick Bonino era in terms of replacing that third line center hole that was left whenever they had to trade Jordan Staal. So, and I mean, he's playing third line center better right now at 37 years old than, Brandon Sutter did when he was like 25 or 26, better than Nick Bukestad ever did. Yeah. And I mean, for God's sake, we were parading around a replacement level version of Riley Sheahan as a third line center for a better part of the 2018 season whenever they were trying to three-peat. And they started the year with Greg McKegg there, like people don't understand. I feel like people forget how pivotal it is to have a good third line center, especially in Pittsburgh, because it's no coincidence that their most championship caliber teams have come whenever they have a lights out third line center.
Yeah, you hit it right there, Doug. You pretty much took the words out of my mouth. Honestly, I was going to say, when this team has been at their very best, it's because they've had that depth down the middle at third line. In 2009 they won with Jordan Staal, and obviously in 16 and 17 they had Bonino. And you have a guy who is pretty close to that, if not maybe better on certain occasions with Jeff Carter. Like you said, he's played better than Brandon Sutter and Sheahan and Galchenyuk and Jankowski and all the other random Penguin legends that we throw in there. I use the term legends loosely, of course, but still, you get the point. This team succeeds whenever they have at least three strong centers going down the middle. And why wouldn't you want that? Why wouldn't you want to keep that together? I get that everyone's like, oh, he's too old. I don't know. From what I've seen in this small sample size with him, he's not really slowing down. He's continued to play well, and he's thriving with the players that they put with him. So I'm cool with this extension. I have no issue with it whatsoever. The only problem is now is that, like I said earlier, now it's opened up the door to what does the offseason bring forward to us.
I honestly don't really have a problem with the extension either. Maybe it's a tad bit too much money, but that'd be my only qualm with it. But I mean, Jeff Carter's been really good for Pittsburgh lately. It's not even just important for Pittsburgh to have a third line center, but you need a third line center anywhere you play. You can't always rely on your top stars to produce. They're gonna have off nights, and then you get a guy like Jeff Carter. He's older. He's kind of in the twilight of his career. He kind of knows that, hey, I'm not going to be playing those top 6 minutes. I'll play bottom 6 and help my team out even more and just kind of coast my career away off here in Pittsburgh, which is beautiful. Like, the fact that LA didn't play him at that bottom 6 was a mistake. They shouldn't have relied on him that much. Him being in Pittsburgh in that bottom 6 role was perfect.
Exactly. And for anybody who has an issue with the money, think of it this way. It's only $500,000 more than what he's making against the cap right now with the 50% retained from Los Angeles. So it's really a moot point whenever you consider, players that may depart, or, next year at this time, they're not going to be paying $125,000 for Juuso Riikola to play down in Wilkes-Barre or things like that. I mean, basically they took half of the Jack Johnson buyout, what they're paying the Jack Johnson buyout, and said, we're going to commit that to Jeff Carter. Like, I think it's fine. I'm not really that much of sweating it. Obviously now though, it makes things more interesting because you don't extend a 37-year-old third line center if you're not going to try and keep this thing rolling for another 3 to 4 years. Which means they're going to go out of their way and try and do everything in their power to keep the band together. However, which way you do that. And I think that, Scotty and I have had extended discussions about it this week. Like, they can realistically fit everybody in. But they need like 1 or 2 things to go their way if they're going to be able to extend Brian Rust too. Because if you take the fan blinders off from Pittsburgh, you realize Brian Rust is probably a top 15 right winger in the NHL right now. And he's going to get paid as such. So much to the point that, this is going to be the last chance the dude has to cash out. And I think that the so-called hometown discount might be off the table at this point. So there's that, I mean, we're talking about a guy who could go out on the open market and get 6 million plus. And if you're able to surround him with the right talent, he's going to be worth it every time. So
yeah. Honestly, I figured 6 would be the minimum for what he would get. He's, like you said, Doug, he's a great player, and it's a shame that the Pens are in the situation they're in, where you just you can't sign everybody. That's just what it comes down to. You have to pay Evgeny Malkin. You're gonna have to pay Chris Letang as well. And when you look at who stays and who goes, as much as I hate to admit it, Brian Rust is probably the easiest to replace out of those 3. I feel like the Penguins could do that fairly simple. They can do it in-house too, which is the key part. They don't have to go out and get, a guy in free agency in order to make that happen. I feel like you can pull a guy up on the team right now and potentially play him with Sid and Jake Gensel, and it would work out fine.
Yeah, it's as simple as getting Rodriguez to sign a 3 to 4 year deal and you play him with Crosby. Honestly,
sign him with a 3x3, and that'll make it work.
Yeah, honestly, like I'm on the board of give him the contract that Russ currently has right now, which is like 3 or 4 times 3.5. That in hindsight, that contract was just straight up robbery by Rutherford, and honestly, like, let's talk about this now. Everybody's worried about their ability to bring everyone back, but like, it's not impossible. They'll need to find a taker on Jason Zucker. And honestly, like, as much as I might get heat for saying this, Mike Matheson is playing himself to a point where somebody will take him on, I think. I know the contract's still pretty rough, but like, if he is able to keep up with the way that he's been and have a good playoff, I think all bets are off at this point in terms of whether or not that contract is the immovable boat anchor that we all believe that it is, or we're led to believe that it is.
I still think it is, personally. I feel like if you're going to try and move someone on the back end, you got a better chance of moving like a Marcus Pettersson as opposed to Mike Matheson. I feel like that contract's still kind of, daunting in a sense for teams to take on. I think they'd rather take a chance with Pettersson because he's only making $4 million compared to $4,875, and you got him for the next 3 years after this season too. So in my eyes, you got a better shot at moving Pettersson as opposed to what's his name, Mike Matheson. But just for the sake of things, I mean, looking at this, obviously the Penguins are wanting to keep Malkin and Letang, but the thing is that's going to make it difficult is just what they want. You know, Gino says he's willing to take a discount. The reports that I'm reading are saying that he's only going to take like $1 million pay cut. Like it's instead of getting him 9.5, it's going to be 8.5. And Letang, on the other hand, Letang doesn't want a pay cut. He wants a pay raise. Letang wants $8 million. So instead of, you know, getting that hometown discount, you have a guy that wants more money and a guy that is taking a discount, but it's not a, you know, I wouldn't call it a hometown discount in a sense.
So let's say they're able to work Malkin down to between 7 and 7.5 million.
There's no way.
I think they could.
He's not.
Like I think between 7.5 and 8 is the ideal wheelhouse. And even then, that's still almost a $1.5 to $1.25 million discount, which may not seem like a lot, but it's gonna be a big deal in the grand scheme of things. And Letang only wanting 8 million, allegedly, isn't that big of a deal as people are bringing it out to be. That's only a $750,000 increase. Literally just the price point of an NHL player on like an AHL contract. So, you know, that's not worrying me. You know, and honestly, these are the two guys, like, I think that Letang and Malkin probably come last. I'd be more worried about trying to figure out the filler guys before, you know, you take care of those guys, because you know that there's at least some sense of loyalty between Letang and Malkin in the organization. So go out and take care of Rodriguez, take care of Danton Heinen if you want to. Go set it up where Aston Reese's contract lines up with the end of Brock McGinn's, you know, stuff like that. And one of the bigger ones that they're going to need to sign that might potentially become a casualty if he wants like a rather large raise would be Chad Ruhwedel.
Yeah, that's going to be one. That's going to be one too. Is how much is he going to want? Because I feel like it's not. I mean, it's not going to be anything luxurious. Obviously, it's not. I don't think it'll be anything more than, you know, 2 million max. But there's definitely. I feel like there would be a team that would pay that.
But still, him making 2 million sucks for them.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, exactly.
You know?
I don't think the Penguins would offer him $1 million, or I don't think they could, at least if they wanted to work. You know,
it would have. Like the farthest I would go with him would probably be 1.5. You know, and somebody that I think about with how Ruhwedel is, that I know that a team would be willing to shell out money for was look at how much Carson Soucy got last year on the market. I think he was making like 2.75 now. You know, like you see contracts like that, and then you see Tucker Pullman's current contract in Vancouver, and you think, okay, like that's probably wheelhouse type. That's probably like what you're looking for in a Chad Ruhwedel extension, unfortunately. You know,
some other guys you mentioned here, Dougie. Obviously, you talked about, because obviously let's just rattle off the guys that are up for free agency for Pittsburgh. You have Gino, Brian Rust, Kasperi Kapanen, Zach Aston Reese, Danton Heinen, Evan Rodriguez, Brian Boyle, Dom Simone, Chris Letang, Chad Ruhwedel, Mark Friedman, Casey DeSmith, Louis Domingue, Drew O'Connor, Juuso Riikola. We've already said that some of those guys are walking. Like, for example, I think we're cool with letting Riikola go, obviously. Another name too, DeSmith. If he's not gone before the season's over, he's definitely done after this season, no doubt about it. Obviously, I think Brian Boyle and Dom Simone are probably gone too.
Yeah.
What are we? Me personally, I'm letting Danton Heinen walk. I know he's an RFA, but I'm cool with letting him go. I haven't bought into this hype. I just haven't. It's too consistent for me.
I'd at least do the non-tender, let him walk as a UFA, but keep the door open. I mean, if he's a guy that wants only between like 2.5 and 2.75 on like a 2-3 year deal. Like, I'm all about it. Like, that's perfect third liner money. It's just a matter of if he's willing to commit to that. You know, the biggest one that I'm wondering about though is, are they going to commit to Kapanen?
I would.
Okay. I mean, I don't think I'm like against it. It's just like, I think that everybody's perception of what he's done in his time here is way overblown. Like, for instance, like yesterday was his 82nd game in Pittsburgh. He has 20 goals, 34 points, or 34 assists, 54 points. If you got that from him in an 82 game season, that's perfectly fine. Like,
Yeah,
there's
no
there's
complaints.
nothing wrong with that, you know?
No, not at all.
Especially for a guy who's still making under 3.5 million.
Which is probably what he would be offered on his next deal, you'd imagine.
Yeah, I would say like the highest that they would go.
He's going to get the Brian Rust contract. I feel like he's got a better chance getting it than Rodriguez does personally.
I like that. I actually really, really like
I think
that. So
Rodriguez gets 3 and Cap gets 3.5.
that's like, that's good stuff. I'm
Mhm.
cool with that. You know, Drew O'Connor's not going to be hard to sign. That's going to be one of those ones that they do how it's like 2-way deal, or 2-year deal, 800K. 1 year's a 2-way deal, 1 year's a 1-way deal. You know, it's probably how it's going to go. And then I'm okay with potentially moving Marcus Pettersson in the summer, because P.O. Joseph is more comparable to that of a Marcus Pettersson type player than he is to this offensive dynamo that everybody thought he was at the time of the Kessel trade.
Yeah.
You know, I think he has that like Marcus Pettersson, Oli Mata type demeanor where he plays solid 2-way hockey and just pushes the puck off the ice.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what John Marino needs. Like, that's the type of guy he needs to play with.
Now, another guy I want to ask you about, because obviously the sample size we've seen from him isn't that large, but do you bring back Louis Domingue next year? If you can.
To be the third goalie, yeah. I would, or if they need a third goalie, I would say yes. But I think they'll have a more legitimate backup by the time the end of the season rolls around. And, you know, their priority might be extending that guy, because I'll be honest, man, next year, your third goalie is probably gonna be Philip Lindbergh. If that's on the table. You know, I've always like, I've been getting the vibe with Philip Lindbergh where they're going to try and just challenge him and see how he does in an elevated role in Wilkes-Barre and see if there's something there. You know, when he was signed, it seems like they have the intention of him being on the NHL roster at some point in the next year or so.
This might be my hot take. I'm cool with Domingue being the backup.
I'm okay with it too.
I think you give him $850 and have him be the backup and play 20 some games a year, I can make peace with that.
Yeah.
I'd probably prefer to look at the options first, but if it did come down to that, I wouldn't be infuriated as well. Like I'd look around like just on the market and see who you got first, but if it does come down to that, then I wouldn't mind him like 1 year deal.
I mean, I agree, but at the same time, like, I still think that if we don't go into, I'm just going to put this out there. If we don't go into the middle of March with a new backup goalie on this roster, everything that we've talked about for the past like 4 to 6 weeks is in grave jeopardy of just being thrown to hell in a handbasket, because Jari cannot keep this team on his back forever.
No.
You know, and it's not even that he's like putting the entire like team on his back, monster type deal. It's just he's carrying a major part of the workload and a rather for lack of a better term, a rather unreasonable workload due to the fact that the Penguins are currently incapable of employing a competent NHL backup goaltender. That's pretty much what's going on here, you know. And honestly, I think for Mike Sullivan's sake, and when I say this, I'm not saying that his job's in jeopardy by any sense, but for the sake of Mike Sullivan's sanity, they need to go get a backup like ASAP, because you can tell just by some of the stuff he's saying about Casey DeSmith in these post-game press conferences, he's going like to all lengths and completely out of his way to not say the hell with this guy.
Oh yeah, you saw it in the Columbus game last Friday. He pulled him after the first period. I remember my dad texted me. He's like, "Did DeSmith get hurt?" I'm like, "No, they just pulled him after letting in 2 goals." And you couldn't blame him. And it's just like, I'm thinking like, dude, we're gonna burn out Jarry before he even gets the chance.
He didn't
have a chance to get ready.
Exactly. And we're gonna play the game again here in about a half hour of how long until Tristan Jarry gets in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. I was talking to my dad. I was like, "Yeah, DeSmith has to start tonight." I was like, "Yeah, he'll get 1 period in hopefully." But it's like, I just don't know. It's just you can't rock with this guy heading into the postseason. You can't. It's not going to work.
Especially like, you can't do that, especially in a pandemic world. You know, that's why the supposed like backup options that I've said to you guys over the past however many weeks here have been rather unorthodox and kind of out of the ordinary, and are actually in most cases number 1 goaltenders on other teams. That's why I'm saying they need like a Jonas Corposalo or a Braden Holtby type player, where if they need to start a stretch of games, they're going to be damn capable of starting those stretches of games. We're not going to be, you know, running around hoping to God that Casey DeSmith can string some weird magic alchemy together, because we all know that we're far past that at this point.
Yep.
Also, with Teddy Bluger being out longer term, being out like, what is it, like 6 to 8 weeks or whatever it is, something like that.
Essentially.
I think they have to go look for a bottom 6 forward at the deadline. Just to limit the workload of Brian Boyle. And when I say that, I don't mean like go out and get a superstar. I'm saying like go trade for like Zemgus Girgensons or something like that.
I'm thinking like, you know, do the Penguins have someone that they could they give like a shot at Casper Bjorkfist again, or what's the tall guy's name? Anthony Angelo. Would you want to throw him in there possibly? If you could.
Zahorna and O'Connor too.
Yeah, well, O'Connor's on the shelf right now. But
the Drew O'Connor situation is interesting because there's that report out there that he's recovering from a collapsed lung.
Yeah, I saw that. What's the deal with that? Like, I didn't read it, but I just saw what was happening with it.
I don't know, but the organization and his agent both declined to confirm whether or not it's true. So there's something interesting with that. But yeah, like Zahorna would be okay, but also like with the way Brian Boyle's playing right now, what do you do? Like, I mean, he's been lights out, you know. That's one of those things I need to just take a moment to old takes expose myself for throwing an absolute hissy fit about him being on the roster, because at the surface, he doesn't really fit what they do. He doesn't like, he just never was that type of guy, but like, he's bought in and he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And the
Truthfully.
fact that he said the only move he had was to put it between his legs is just hilarious. On that goal he scored the other night, that's just incredible.
If you had told me at the beginning of the year that Brian Boyle was going to be a potential goal of the year candidate for the Penguins, would have laughed you out of the building. That's great though. Good for him.
None
Yeah.
of us expected him to do this,
No,
like at all.
No.
We all threw hissy fits because we're like, why is he even on this team? Like, why was that even thought of?
It's
But it's working. Like,
well, you guys know I will always have that type of response to signings like that just because of I'm still like a chronic sufferer of Jack Johnson PTSD.
right.
So I don't know, it just is what it is. But I mean, they've been playing really good without certain guys in the lineup. And, they might have to reconfigure what that fourth line looks like whenever Bluger comes back, because honestly, guys, I don't think you take Brock McGinn away from Jeff Carter right now.
He's looked very good on that line. He has. He has looked very good on that line. And we always knew that potential was there with him too. Like
Mhm.
we knew that, someone had a shot at he had that potential to not only replace Brandon Tanev, obviously, but potentially slide up into that third line spot. So I'm cool with that, honestly. I think what you do is when Bluger does come back, you just roll the dice with Aston Reese and Zahorna on his wings. Personally.
I could see that because, I could see Aston Reese and Zahorna, or honestly, when they're fully healthy and Zucker's back, I think Danton Heinen moves down to the fourth line with them.
could you imagine?
Because Zucker would go back with Malkin.
Kapanen's still playing with Malkin in this scenario.
Yeah, you can't take him away from Malkin, honestly.
Yeah.
Or I mean, who knows how long Zucker's out, because he got that core muscle surgery done, and it's like, could he be like Sid and be back in like 6 weeks, or is it going to be like how it was where that's what got Nick Bukestad in the end?
Yeah, true. Mm-hmm.
Like you don't know. Like that's one of those surgeries where your body can respond to it so many different ways.
Yeah.
So, and also, like, I'm okay with Dom Simone being on that fourth line. Like I've told you guys before, like he has the defensive instincts to play on that fourth line. And he really showed that in that Vegas game, that like huge back check. But yeah, that third line's been playing really good. Obviously, I would love to see Rodriguez get some more run in the top six, but if you're able to get it where he's cooking with Jeff Carter, that gives you like a whole nother scoring line that you didn't have before, and like I was talking about that with my dad, because I'm not going to lie to you, he was complaining a lot and whining about Rodriguez not being in the top six. I was just like, but if it works, it gives them a whole nother option for them to just, it gives them a completely different way to kill you, is what it does. Like, if we're just going to be completely honest, really, like, getting a third line going is like the only missing like piece to the puzzle. Like that's the missing spice to this championship winning gumbo, boys. we gotta get it going,
Yeah.
Because honestly, like, the top six is scary right now. Malkin looks really good. Reports of chemistry being disrupted, be damned.
I was just about to say something.
I was thinking it too. I was like, that team chemistry is safe. Thank goodness.
Mhm.
The power play looks
Great.
light years better with Malkin on it than it did without him.
Go figure.
Crazy what happens when you throw a top 10 player of a generation back into a power play. Insane.
Bunch of miracles.
Never would have thought.
Never, ever would have thought. But yeah, like they're in a good spot, you know. Obviously, go get a backup goalie. We need the backup goalie. I don't know what they'll do or how they'll do it, but I figured I would just let you know that this week's flavor of the week is Jonas Corposalo. I've been thinking about Jonas Corposalo, and honestly, like as much as it's going to physically pain a lot of us to admit it, I would take Fleury back at 50% in a heartbeat, just simply because it's a competent body that knows how to freaking play goalie.
And literally that's it.
They're gonna, people are gonna want him to start though.
And that's the thing too. I feel like if he's going to get moved, it's going to be to a team that actually needs a starter, not
True.
not to be a backup. So, like I said a couple episodes ago, he's probably got a better shot going to Edmonton than he does Pittsburgh. That's just my opinion. But
Yeah, I could see Edmonton. But another reason why I liked the idea of doing that trade with Chicago was, maybe you could dispose of a contract. A problematic contract,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying Mike Matheson, but like the team's very desperate for top 6 forwards right now. Like, could they take on Jason Zucker? I mean, I don't care what anyone says. It's way better than Jonathan Taves playing on a line with Sam Lafferty.
He just scored. I think he just scored either last night or a couple nights ago for like the first time in a year. So good for him, or 2 years actually.
He has those games where he has like an insane pass or just scores a goal like once a year.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it, he just forgets how to play his actual role. It's incredible. Yeah, and also Alex Nylander is probably going to be up on this roster by the playoffs.
God, I hope.
Like I really think that that's possible. And if Zucker's out longer term and doesn't come back right away, and you need somebody to play with Malkin, why not? Or you need somebody to play on that third line to move Brock down, why not try it? Because that gives you another really good potential scorer.
Yeah.
In your lineup,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's way better than the the curious case of Daniel Sprong. Like it was during the other cup runs. Like, honestly, I think that there's more potential there with Nylander to be a competent NHLer than there was with Sprong at that age. But moving forward, Trevor Zegras finally pulled off in Michigan.
It's only a matter of time.
It was basically a ticking time bomb, and it just happened to go off last night. I was so impressed with how he was just able to do it in quick stride. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like most players that we've seen do it had to come to a complete stop first. But I feel like he did it all in one motion.
He made it look the most casual out of everyone who's done it so far.
Like, didn't he flip the puck up over a stick and then just kind of went in behind the net and just tucked it in like it was nothing?
Yeah, it was very. He made it look very casual. Like whenever you saw Svechnikov did it, he stopped behind the net and then he, went up with it. Forsberg kind of like had to do a little balancing act with it whenever he did it. With Zegras, you can tell this guy does this in practice like every day. It's just it's mentally ingrained in his mind that he knows how to do it because he's practiced it so many times. Just go around the net and then scoop it and put it in. It was a great goal, and of course it's how poetic is it that the young American buries it on the in the French Canadian city of Montreal. It's great. Push the narrative. There we go.
Yeah, it was an awesome goal. And another thing I think we should touch on is the Flyers might blow it up.
It definitely seems that way. They
Yeah.
have. Is their losing streak still alive? I think. What are they at now?
Yeah,
Over 13.
13.
13. Wow.
13. So there's that. That's a big one to keep an eye on because there's going to be an absolute bidding war for Claude Giroux if he chooses to waive his no movement clause.
Say, he's got to want to say it's if he wants to leave first. I've seen people throw Konechny's name around too, so that's another one to keep an eye out for. But yeah, 10 games and it's like to have two separate 10-game losing streaks in a season
That's rough.
is insane.
Brutal.
And yeah, definitely did not see this coming from this team. And I expected better out of them, to be honest with you. I didn't think they would be like at the bottom of the division where they were at, but just completely fall off the table again.
Well, cousin, wasn't it what like a year or two, maybe even 3 years ago? Like we were talking about like them contending. Like I remember that. Like I literally remember we were talking about them potentially making a playoff push at one point because Carter Hart was playing absolutely insane. But now he's been exposed, and the rest of the Flyers have been exposed. So there goes that. There goes that narrative.
I mean, there was a lot of encouraging signs of them becoming a legitimate contender after the bubble.
Yeah.
Because there was a 2-week period there where everybody thought
they were one of the play-in teams, weren't they?
Yeah.
They were one of the teams who like just played that little like round robin determine the seeding.
Yeah, and they were damn near close to the conference final.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like they were that close. And that was one of my favorite teams to watch during that bubble run, honestly. Like they were a lot of fun to watch. And Konechny getting moved would be interesting because like I know he can also play center, but he plays a lot of wing.
Yeah.
I could see Minnesota offering up Kevin Fiala to get Travis Konechny there to play center. I could see that being a potential move. Or, wouldn't Giroux in Minnesota just be awesome? That would be cool.
That's a thought. That's a thought for sure.
And then of course, the two main guys that are in the Giroux sweepstakes, so to say, are going to be Colorado and Boston. Yeah. Because Colorado never really has center depth, and Boston is still trying to replace David Krejci. So that's something interesting to keep an eye on. And also, just want you guys to know, Brock McGinn is in the top 6 right now.
Who's he playing with? Oh, it's
Malkin and Kapanen.
Yeah, obviously, I'm an idiot. But
they flipped.
Noted podcast guest.
Yes. Podcast.
Damn right. You're damn right. But yeah, that's it's interesting.
Okay, so do we want to talk about how bad Rask has been playing since he came back?
Yeah,
oh my gosh. My dad texted me sometime earlier this weekend, like Rask let in 7 goals last night against, I forget who it was, might have been Carolina or something.
Yeah, it was Carolina.
Yeah.
Or he did at least.
Well, that's what happens when you take half a year off and don't play any games. That's usually you're not going to ease your way back into it, unfortunately. So, I mean, that's an interesting situation in Boston too. Because I remember we kind of talked about whenever we had Smitty on as to what they were going to do with that odd goalie out. Obviously, almost the quote unquote starter, if you want to call him that. And there's Rask and Swayman still there. So, I mean, if Rask keeps playing like this, do you even bother bringing that guy back next year? Because I really can't afford to. Because Bergeron, correct me if I'm wrong, Bergeron's up after this year, right?
I think so, yeah.
Say Boston's kind of like in Pittsburgh's situation. Let me pull it up here. Yeah, Bergeron's up. DeBrusk is. Lazar. That's it. So really, they're only losing Bergeron and DeBrusk. So, I mean, Yeah, that's their situation for now, but that'll be an interesting one to see how that plays out. Who else was I looking at? There was another team that has an interesting offseason coming up. I just started checking out other teams after I saw all the Pens news. Colorado's going to have another interesting offseason too, because I feel like that one's going to be interesting because they have to, not only do you have to, these are the guys that are up for free agency for them this season. It's Burakovsky and Kadri are two names that are up. Which one of those guys are you going to bring back?
Well, if Kadri keeps playing like he is, they're probably going to bring back Kadri. But I mean, isn't he like in his 30s?
He's 31 and Burakovsky's 26.
Okay, yeah, then they
That's-
either can
that's why I
risk
said
it.
that. That's
Yeah,
why I
they
said
either can risk it with Kadri, but I mean, it's a good question. You can make an argument for both sides, but
And they also have Kemper and Francois up after this year too.
it's tough.
That's going to be interesting.
Mhm.
If there was ever a scenario where the Bruins tried to trade Jeremy Swayman, I think Colorado should be the team that tries to pony up the assets for it. Like, legit. But yeah, I think a lot of that boils down to is how much money are you willing to commit to Nazem Kadri at going into his age 32 season?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's always been one of the more underrated guys in the league, but you know, can you trust him to stay consistent and keep stringing together a great couple more seasons into the end of his career?
And not kill somebody when the playoffs rolls around.
Yes.
Because you can't score any points in the press box.
Exactly.
Not going to happen.
Exactly.
Do we want to talk any about Evander Kane signing in Edmonton?
Oh boy.
Yeah. I was just about to bring that up next because as if that entire organization could not get any more toxic and messy, they go ahead and sign Evander Kane.
Here's hockey's version of Antonio Brown.
Literally.
This is
Literally.
hockey's version of we're stuck in a global pandemic and we need employees, so we're keeping this guy here.
Right.
Like legit. Man, I don't even know. Like, I know he's not a bad player,
Mm-mm.
but I don't think he's good enough to warrant like dealing with all this side stuff.
No, he's not.
You know, that's why whenever everybody was talking about him coming to Pittsburgh, I was so adamantly against it because I'm just like, he's good, but he's not that good.
No, it's not worth the headache. And that's the thing. Like, they've been waiting for him to get it together for the last 3 teams since Buffalo and then San Jose. They thought, oh, we finally fixed him here in the San Jose. Nope, haven't fixed that yet. And now this is the 3rd time where they're waiting for him to get it together. I don't know, man. And it's not like he's going into I don't want to call it a winning situation right now because I mean Edmonton they're playing a little bit better now, but it's still not enough for you to be like, okay, this team's like this is a winning team here. They're still all over the place, you know. I don't know, man. It's a mess. It's a mess up north.
It's insane that someone actually gave him another chance, considering everything that's come out, true or false rumors. Like it's insane. But I mean, Doug said it the best. I mean, you need people to play. You need employees. So
Somebody's got to wear the jersey.
exactly. So I guess that's him.
It's just crazy to me how comically bad the Oilers can continue to be.
They don't have any
Like,
depth. They've never had depth.
You know, and whenever we were talking about the Jeff Carter extension, how important it is to have a third line center. Think about this for a second. The Oilers' third line center, with arguably the 2 best players in the world, is they're not 1 and 2. Their third line center is Ryan McLeod.
Quite the drop off.
That's bad. I'm sorry. That's really bad.
Like you go from you know, you go from people arguing about Jeff Carter, who could be a second line center on most teams in the league, making $3 million to be a third line center, to looking at the Oilers and thinking, oh my God, they have an NHL 13th forward centering their third line.
Literally. McLeod's making $800K and he has 7 points in 28 games this year.
Oh my God.
I mean, he's
Oh
young,
boy.
though. Like, I get why they're trying to play him there, but like, might be a little too much for him right now.
I mean, your other options are Derek Ryan, Devin Shore, and not even Kyle Turris anymore. He just got put on waivers. So, yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah. It's a
They're
no
gonna
win.
have-
I mean, I know what they do. It's just for whatever reason, everybody in the Oilers organization, their fans alike, are adamantly against it. You play Ryan Nugent Hopkins at the position he was drafted to play.
Yeah.
You play him at center.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I hate to break it to everybody. What happened with the Oilers is what the Penguins would have been had they paid Jordan Stahl all that money 10 years ago.
Or had Jordan Stahl actually accepted it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Had Jordan Stahl accepted it. You're right.
They wanted him. They wanted him. He just didn't want to be here anymore.
Wait, how much did they offer? I think I was a little too young to remember.
10
that.
years, 60 million or something like that. Wasn't that it?
10
Dougie?
years, 60 million, dude.
You said no. So if you're turning down that much money, you're like, okay, you clearly don't want to be here anymore.
Oh,
He accepted
God.
the same
Yeah.
contract.
He signed the same one with when Rutherford got him from Carolina.
Oh my
He
God.
signed the same contract a week later.
Oh
It was
my
all
God.
an advanced ploy to play with Eric. Craziness. I love how everything on this podcast still somehow ties back to Jordan Stahl in the end. Like, I was thinking about that. Like, I was thinking about our Brock McGinn interview earlier today. And I was like, I feel like we asked him more questions about Jordan Stahl than we did about him himself. Like, I don't know, man. But is there anything else that you guys want to cover?
No.
I'm gonna watch Casey DeSmith try and play goalie in about 10 minutes here, so we'll see how that goes.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I'm not looking forward to it, but we're gonna sit through it and do it anyway. Damn it.
Yep.
All right, guys. This has been another episode of Forechecking TV. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Forechecking TV, and look for us wherever you get your podcast from. All right, guys. Good night.